Hi there, and welcome to episode 4 of Jump Into Success. Here we go. Okay, so welcome to episode 4 of Jump Into Success. And once again, in this sort of intro series that we're doing here of the podcast, we have an older recording. This recording is with James Latimer, who's a very successful life coach. And I think you'll find it interesting because he's got a very interesting personal story. So enjoy this episode and be sure to subscribe as the brand new recordings will be going live very, very soon. Take care. Bye for now. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce this evening's guest, and it is, of course, Mr. James Latimer. Good evening, James.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
I'm okay, but I'm not sure that was the most glamorous way I could have introduced you, but I suddenly thought I'll just go rattling on, and it'd just be better coming from yourself, I think.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, so, James, just by way of introduction, just kind of give us the one sentence or the two sentence version of who you are, where you are, and what you do.
So, James Latimer, I'm a coach. I've been, trained with Tony 8-9 years ago now, and have just stuck with the college, assisting courses as a way of kind of keeping in touch with the learning that comes out of the college and just honing my own skills. I have a coaching business, the Holistic Life, and which I say with a W because it's about the whole person. And I've just moved to Hampshire. So there we go. That's a short synopsis.
You've moved, I'm moving, the whole world is changing. Yes.
It's a time of change, for sure.
It is. There's a lot of change going on. So, James, I mentioned about your interesting backstory, notwithstanding that I just this evening discovered that you weren't born in the United Kingdom. So that was like, what? Because you sound so English to me.
I've lived in the UK for a long time. A long time. But I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa. So
yeah,
I grew up there until my early teens, and then we hot-footed over here. But I do support the South African rugby team when it comes to sport.
Shocking.
Just to say, because they win a lot.
But we got knocked out, and I was sure that I was in with a good chance to win, but we didn't. Now then, I talk about your interesting backstory. So, as I understand it, you and your friend got to a point in life and thought, we're going to go off and discover the meaning of life or something like that. And you ended up, tell us the story rather than me trying to.
No, that's fine. So, all right, well, I'll start, a few years ago. So, normal life, went to school, university. But when I was at university, I met my now wife, Hannah. And the first thing she said to me is, let's meditate. And I'm like, okay. I didn't know. I don't think she had meditated, but she just thought, let's do it. So we meditated, and not that I knew what that was, but it kind of sparked something in me. And from there, I worked in corporate after university, but all the while I was fascinated by personal development, particularly the yoga, meditation side of things. And then in 1998, it's a long time ago, I literally walked out of the corporate world. I said, I've had enough. There is so much BS here. I can't handle it. I just didn't want to know. So much politics. And particularly this company, which is for those of you that might have ever worked there, it's a telecommunications company. And they are notorious for the politics that go on. Anyway, so I then retrained in landscaping. Actually, Hannah and I both retrained in landscaping. And that was that was a passion, and did that for 20 years. But also on the side was always continuously pursuing this personal development, not self-realization, but kind of in that frame. And then in the year 2000, I went on an advanced course, a silent retreat in Italy, of all places, for the new year, which was the millennium, I think, when all the computers were meant to crash. So a good time to be in silence just to see what happened. But nothing happened. But in that time, the guru of the organization, the teacher of the organization, said, "Come to India. I've got a project for you." And Hannah and I went, "No, we're going to go to Portugal and work with my father. He had a landscaping business out there, and we were going to join him." And he said, "No, it's not really a good time for that." And we said, "No, we're going to go." And then this lady from Bolton, what was her name? Angela, I think. She said, I'm not going to do a Bolton accent, but she said, "Oh, no, you're going to go to India." And we went, "No, we're not. Don't be daft." Anyway, 6 months in Portugal, it was horrific. Aside from family relationships and dynamics, it was pretty dire. And then we had another call saying, "Are you ready to come to India now?"
Wow.
Literally like that. And we went, "Okay, yeah, fine." And we had, things hadn't gone well with my dad's business. He was fine, but he just wasn't giving us the kind of space to work in the business as we'd initially thought. So we didn't have too much to rub together. But how we got to Germany to get the flight to get to India was a miracle. That's another story for another time. But it was just, so many, what's the word? Synchronicities.
Yes.
And anyway, we then spent 3 years in India, in an ashram, landscaping in this ashram. So yes, that's the different thing. So 3 years, yeah.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we learned a lot. I mean, we learned an awful lot. Primarily personal development, but we learned quite a few of the Vedic texts, and it was a fascinating time. Learned a lot about ourselves, because you've got a huge project, you've got a big delivery, you're there as a volunteer. You get your food and drink and a bit of stipend to kind of pay your way, but other than that, it's 3 years out of the system, if you like. So that was a challenge, but it was just fascinating, and we were hooked. I mean, India is just an incredible place. We loved it, and yeah, it was it was an experience. But from that, my dad came at the end of that, when we had an inauguration. So we had a 5-day full-blown festival inauguration. So we had presidents and prime ministers and religious leaders, and because it's multi-faith kind of thing, all coming to celebrate the opening of this huge meditation hall. And we had done all the landscaping. So on the opening day itself, we designed this outdoor amphitheater, which we thought, at a push, Indian style, would get about 30,000 people. Anyway, they fed 90,000 people that day, 95,000 people. So, and the whole hillside was full. And we were like, okay. But luckily there wasn't anything, it wasn't like a stand. It was all ground level. So nothing was going to fall over. It was just a lot of people. But yeah, so it was a big event, and fascinating. And then obviously, my dad was like, "Gosh, you can landscape. Okay, we'll come back to Portugal."
You proved yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. But so then we came back to Portugal, and we spent about 10 years there, and then we came back to the UK about 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago, and settled back here with the intention, interestingly enough, of for me personally, of learning to coach. So I'd had as a running a business with your father, with a family member, is a challenge. Can be a challenge. Doesn't always have to be, but it can be. And I'd met a Dutch guy, friend of mine, who was a coach, and we were just chatting. And I said to him, "Look, can you help?" And he said, "Yeah, come on, come and see me for a couple of sessions, and we'll see where it goes." And in those 2 sessions, it was fascinating. I mean, I was absolutely, my eyes were just awoken to the potential that coaching brings. So, bearing in mind, I've spent 3 years plus 15 years, altogether learning about self and mind management and self management and all that kind of thing. And then this coaching just kind of was the cherry on top. It just helped me understand where the responsibility lies. And I realized it was down to me. If I wanted to have a relationship that I wanted to have, it was down to me to create it. So that's kind of what sold me. And I knew I didn't want to be stuck in a ditch digging holes for the rest of my day. So I used the landscaping, as you know, from being on the practitioner course. I drew this van which had all my coaching tools in it, in replacing my landscaping tools. So I do this van, and so I changed career. So you were talking earlier about change, and I've done that several times now. And I'm now into a new iteration of change. So I'm quite familiar with change.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I thought you'd be a good person to interview, because obviously you've done the course, and you help out as an assistant on the prac as well, and I've known you all that time and seeing how you work and all of that kind of stuff. Well, I think maybe because I'm reading a lot of stuff around that kind of, I don't want to say pseudo spiritual, but certainly not necessarily textbook coaching content, if I can put it like that. Maybe just slightly left of center. How you connect those things together, given the experience you had, 3 years in India with a guru and all of those kind of things, and the grow model. I mean, I'll just use that as an example. So bum 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 bum. And I know we don't teach necessarily students to be robots in that way, but there's still a structure. So I'm just wondering how you connect and how you marry those two things together, to help you build your practice, but also to help your clients.
So, I mean, for me, it has been a kind of a marriage of East and West, for sure. And so NLP was fascinating for me. And I remember possibly saying to you or to Chris or to Mel how fascinating it was for me to go through the NLP training that you guys offer and see all the similarities and synchronicities that happen with Eastern philosophy, and how the mind works, how the emotions work. So for me, the fundamental, the foundation, if you like, is the communication model. Because that, if you unpack that and just peel away all the layers, there is so much information in the communication model that is unsaid, that years of studying texts and so forth about how the mind works, how the body works, how the emotions work, it's all there. It just needs a bit more of a peeling away to get to the heart of it. And so that's what struck me the most, I think, was how the communication model expressed in a simple way so much unsaid information that I just have from being a sponge for all these years. So that's a fundamental. And then just other models, other which like logical levels. That's really simple but powerful. But there are keys in there, like like behavior. So human behavior for me as a person is a fascination, because behind behavior there is motivation. And where is that motivation? So there's always a root cause somewhere, and it's understanding. That's why that the phrase staying curious, because you just want to stay curious for what's the root cause to this, what's really motivating this behavior. And if they understand that, then what can they do to change it and then create a new behavior that's way more powerful for them and gives them many more results? So, and then obviously there's elements of breath work and self-awareness. Effectively what is now called mindfulness is what I was teaching, and we just called it breath work and that kind of thing. But it's it's breath mixed with mind, with attention, with your self-awareness. But your phrase, where your attention goes, energy flows. Our attention is it's our currency, it's our life force, it's so powerful. And where we pay attention, I mean, let's just step back a bit. Look at how hungry people are for our attention. Look at all the media, social media, technology that we're having. People want your attention. Why? Because if they've got your attention, you haven't got it. So we have to reclaim our attention. We have to own it back. And so that's why I just find the whole mix of the coaching, the NLP, and all this, Vedic texts actually coming together is a fascinating experience for me personally. I probably need to write something about it, but
in fact, I'll task you now. There's your task. Start writing.
Okay.
We'll publish it on the website.
I'll just make a note.
Yes, make a note. So, as you were saying about logical levels and about the behavior and what's behind that, I was struck another presupposition, which is why I'm so passionate about the presuppositions. All behavior has a positive intention, and you say, well, why am I doing it? What is that about? What am I getting out of this? What's the positive intention of behavior? And once you understand that, it's easy to break bad habits and create new, more empowering ones.
Exactly. And because I was just, when you were writing about presuppositions or talking about them, yes, of course, I had no failure, only feedback. But for me, one of the most powerful ones is the person with the most flexibility of behavior controls the system. And that flexibility comes from a growth mindset, which is coaching language for being really self-aware and very present in the moment. When you're in your present moment, then you allow your presence to own the time, to own the moment.
Yeah. And that gives you choice.
Always.
Whereas if you're distracted and then that's not going to happen.
That's it. So if you own your attention, then you own your choice. If you don't own your attention, someone else has got it and you're distracted, then we become fixed mindset victims. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you just a couple more questions if I can. So obviously, you came on the course, you did master practitioner as well, and I know you're also doing ILM level 7 executive coach. So you're like super coach at the moment, which is great. And you built a practice. I know you also work with your wife in the same business. What would you say? Well, if you were to give advice or to counsel somebody who's thinking, all right, I'm going to start my own coaching practice, or I'm looking to, or I am doing it now, but I'm just thinking, what kind of 1 or 2 things would you suggest they ought to focus on or think about designing a strategy around or an outcome, as an example?
So for me, it was a transition. I didn't rush into it. I didn't say, right, I've qualified, I'm off now. I'm going to leave my day job. So I took my time because for me, I'm very interested in. I'm not very interested. One of my core values is integrity. So I want to feel that I'm confident in what I do, and I'm good at what I do, and I get results, and I can see that the people I'm working with are getting the results they want. That's their outcome. Yeah. So I kind of coached on the side for a while, and it just happened naturally that when you start coaching, people recommend you, and then you get more. And so you just build, and eventually it's like, okay, I need to give this more time because actually, and the other thing as well is I love coaching. So for me, it's exciting in the sense that it's I know I'm never going to have to work another day in my life, to be honest, because it's just such a pleasure to coach. And
that's your saying, isn't it? Do something you love, you never work another day in your life.
Exactly. And so I've really found that with the coaching, and I love landscaping, but sometimes when you're freezing cold and your fingers are falling off and
I can imagine
nothing's working, you think there are other things to do in life, and there might be another way to work. So I was quite relieved to transition into full-time coaching, but it took a while, probably say 3.5 years, to really go full-time. And I'm still learning. Nothing's perfect. I'm still growing. I'm still. And so it's but it's what I'm enjoying is that the people I do work with really get value and for themselves. And so to answer people's questions, it depends on obviously it depends on their own circumstance. If they can afford to say, right, I'm going to give it I'm going to invest 50 grand or whatever, and I'm just going to go for it, fine, do that. But I would say get a website, get some practice, and then your website becomes your calling card or your business card or whatever, so that people know about you, and get and also get some testimonials. So people that have worked with you, just get them to share their experience of how it's helped them working with you. and just build slowly. It doesn't have to be a rush. It's not a rush thing. You've got many years ahead of you to coach, so go for it that way.
Yeah, and that's the advice I always give, because the students are always asking me, what should I do? And I said, well, what I did was this, not dissimilar to yourself. I was part-time, build it up over a period of time. Before I knew it, I had to go part-time on my proper job, as I call it that.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. So eventually you have to go part-time on your real job or your other job.
Slowly, because it just took over. And then of course, we started the college. And of course, that was, I wouldn't have time to do anything now because it's just 24/7. So a question here from Paul. What are your thoughts on entrepreneurship versus coaching? Becoming a coach to me seems like it's 90% entrepreneurship versus 10% coaching in a successful practice, he means.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you see, okay, so obviously you learn to become a coach, but you don't learn to run a business. Okay?
No,
and it was the same with landscaping. I learned how to landscape, but not how to, run a business as such and all that kind of thing. So yes, there is an aspect of you've got to learn how to run a business. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you, Paul. Maybe not 90-10. Maybe it's a bit more. Hopefully, it's more coaching.
I think
but absolutely. You've got to think about where you're headed. You've got to look at your destination. You've got to look at your goals, and 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 year, 3 year goals, so that you've got a plan ahead of, and you know what kind of direction you want to head in, and where you want to get to. What it feels like to be. What for you feels like a successful business after, say, 18 months. And bearing in mind
that outcome, what is your outcome here, and what are you prepared to do to get there? And I think the entrepreneurship is more at the front end, to be perfectly honest with you, because you've got to do a lot to get up and running. So I remember when I first started, I went to every speaking engagement. I'd go to an opening of an envelope if I could stand up in front of people and say, "This is what I do," And I was like one of those maniacs you meet in a lift. I would just go, "Hi, I'm blah, blah, blah," and I would have a pitch, always have a pitch. And over a period of time, and I was surprised how quickly, I was able to go part-time, as it happens. And we had John on last month, and I think John's here somewhere this evening. John had his own business that he was running and wanted to become a coach, trained, qualified, and then he's transitioned. And now he's at that point where the old business is, well, I've got to get rid of it because it's getting in the way of the thing I really love doing. And the month before that, we had Ross on, and similar thing. He was in sales for a big timber manufacturer, and they wanted to keep him, and they tried to tempt him back with all sorts of incentives. Those of you who know Ross, he's a salesman, so he was getting a lot of bonuses, and I mean that in a loving way. But he wanted to do something else. He wanted to do coaching, and now he's super successful at that, and travels around the country doing his lecturing and all of the things that he does. So, it's that transition. But yeah, I think you need to be entrepreneurial up at the front end, get yourself out there, have a pitch. People start by having a niche. I'm not sure you always need a niche, but I guess something to hang a hook on. But don't let that become a prison, I always think. Shelley has a question here. Did you decide on a particular client group when you started? Now, this is an interesting question because that's the one I always get asked. Do I have to have a niche or a particular focus? Now, mine happened by accident. I don't mind. I think I've told this story to everybody before. It was the NLP process, VK disassociation, or as it used to be called, fast phobia cure. And it just happened by chance. Tony was the fast phobia cure guy in Swindon, and I would see 20 or more clients a week, and they would come in, zap, well-formed outcome, zap, out the door. And I got, just like you said, James, I got a reputation. And, I was like, bam, 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 bam. It allowed me to buy my house because I wouldn't have been able to do it beforehand. So did I have a particular thing in mind? I don't think I did. And then it just kind of happened that I drifted into the corporate work by accident. Somebody came on a lecture and, anyway, I'm babbling. James, did you?
No, that's fine. I mean, from my perspective, Shelley, did I have a particular client group? No. I wasn't that entrepreneurially savvy at that particular time about niche and who's your avatar and all that kind of thing. I've obviously since learned all about that, and so I just it was just word of mouth, and I think I did something on my website because I built my own website, which was interesting, and I did some SEO, and it just meant that in my area I was on the first page. So I don't know how that happened, but it worked, and it doesn't work anymore because I haven't updated it for a long time. But so it was word of mouth, and what really happened out of that, I think, is that I would say my particular client group is entrepreneurs, it's small businesses, people who run their own business, but it's to do with personal relationship. So I would say, if I was to call myself anything, or to say that I work in a certain area, it's in relationships. So fundamentally, relationship with self is like the fundamental relationship, and then as that develops, relationships with other people. So so a lot of it turns out that it's relationships, with staff, or actually personal relationships, marriages, that kind of thing. So that seems to be
I think one of the students, sorry James, one of the students on the new course has asked me, I think it's that course, it might have been a different group, I get confused, asked me about relationship coaching. And I think the thing that you said there, because it's the thing I always think about, it's about the two people, if it's two people, but it has to start with relationship with myself. Those four pillars, you've got to think, who am I in rapport with? Am I in rapport with myself? Have I got an outcome? Am I really seeing what's there and what my behavior is causing? And am I flexible in how I approach? And people forget that. They don't think it's relationship, it's the other person. No. The meaning of my communication is the response I get.
Absolutely. Well, that's it. And I mean, you look at the communication model, it is all about the self. It's just, the whole thing is the behavior, the physiology, everything comes back to what have you told yourself right at the beginning? Yes, you've seen something, you've heard something, you've felt something, but they're your filters, and it's your dialogue that's giving you the behavior out of it. So it's got, absolutely. So for me, it comes down to that, and I use the communication model in a very broad sense in that context. And I would just say, Shelley, relationships, yes, and you made another comment there, which is just if you haven't planned it, but sometimes the world is a mirror to us, and so I just find a lot of the time clients come and the mirror work, and I don't know if you have ever looked at mirror work. I don't know if it's in the coaching field or not, but that brings another aspect or another fascinating perspective, because for me, coaching is all about perspectives. What's the perspective you're giving yourself to?
So in NLP, we call it meta mirror. It's a meta mirror. It's a Bandler. Is it Bandler? It might be TAD, actually. I think it's might be TAD. Stand corrected with the meta mirror. So one more question, and then we're going to run the prize thing. Dawn saying, do you sell yourself as a life coach or other?
Yeah, well, that's not arrogant, Shelley. Dawn, it's funny. The life coach, I have a problem with the word life coach because it doesn't carry enough gravitas. I do use it. I say, I'm a life coach. I just often just call myself a coach. And then that people say, what kind of coach? And then that just allows the conversation to then flow, and then I can explain it in a more detailed way, because I think sometimes people can have an idea of what they think a life coach is, and it's nothing at all. Life coach is such a vast term. So I tend to steer away from it. Some people use it it depends, everything is about intention. So if you're clear on your intention, if you're absolutely clear that life coach is it, you'll sell it 100%. But if you're not sure, and I'm not sure, then I prefer to use other terms.
I call myself a success coach. People go, successful in what? I said, what do you want to do? It's very simple. I mean, successful in life, successful in business. You want to start a business, you want to get, what is it? What do you want to be successful in? Let's work on that. And that's always worked for me, and I've never really changed that.
And I think actually, Tony, that's what I love about coaching, is that you can kind of call yourself whatever you want, but the fundamentals are, it's just about what kind of process are you using to help people get their outcome.
That's it.
And that's,
get yourself out there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember
Don't
I came
be a
back.
wallflower.
Exactly. And I remember coming back late from lunch once and made to do a silly dance on the course. It's all about the process, not the content. And so I will never forget that.
We did like to make you do silly dances.
Mm.
Right. So, James, any last few thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I mean, I'm hoping that's useful for everyone.
I think so. Yeah, it's great.
And just, I suppose the only thing I would say is that life doesn't have to be linear, and you make it what you want it to be, and you are in charge of your destiny and your outcome, and no one else is. A lot of what I focus on is personal sovereignty, so really owning personal ownership, because that is the fundamental of your own personal growth. No one's in charge of you; you're in charge of yourself. Yeah. So I would just say, if you want it, it's up to you. Go and get it. And if you want to understand, act. There we go.
There you go. Another presupposition. We've had a presupposition feast this evening. Absolute feast. Okay, so Daniel, if you're still with us, hopefully you still are with us. Tell us what book you want. Otherwise, I'll be chasing you up tomorrow, and I'm very busy tomorrow because I'm packing after my coaching calls in the morning. Daniel wants to think and grow rich as well. Okay, well, that's times 2. Well, that's easy for me to remember. Okay, guys. Thank you for tuning in this evening. We want to thank James for being with us. Now, one quick last reminder that I should have mentioned at the beginning. A couple of people have emailed me directly and said they're really, really loving the morning motivations and the weekly Monday videos. I'm really, really pleased that everybody's enjoying them. This was an idea we had years ago, but never got around to doing it. So we are doing it now. And I think it is.
Can I just say, Tony, it's great to see it happen every day. I love to see it in my email box every day. And, because we've spoken about big for a long time, and it's just great to see that it's happening. So well done.
We're finally doing
thanks very much for tonight as well.
Thank you. Anyway, the question was from 2 people that really enjoyed. Can they share with other people? Of course you can. You can copy and paste, the phrases or the quotations, but you can also invite them to join us. All they got to do is go onto the website, hello website, UKCPD.co.uk, and all you got to do is click on the personal development section and just click on Be Inspired Group. It's free. There's no charge. And you'll be able to join and get everything same as you. That's all they have to do. Okay, so a couple of thank yous. We'll share these. Daniel saying thank you. Paula saying thank you. Sabrina saying thank you. Wendy saying thank you. Chris is saying thank you. Amanda saying thank you. Daniel saying thank you. Lots and lots of thank yous. Jane is saying thank you. John saying thank you. John, hello. There you're there. I didn't know you were still here. Fantastic. Alrighty, guys, our time is up. James, absolutely marvelous. Cheers, guys. And some of you I will see at the weekend. If not, I will see you in the fullness of time. Take care for now. Good night, all. Bye.
Thanks, cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, so there you go. I'm sure you will have enjoyed that. Very, very interesting indeed. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next podcast. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye for now.